Hello, everyone, and welcome to our live coverage of Starlink Group 12-18 mission launching from the Space Coast, that is from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. We hope you all are doing fine and excited about the upcoming SpaceX launch. If it is your first time here, hi, my name is Dipta Maitra. I'll be your host providing commentary for today's mission launch, and you are watching AstroYonder live.
Roger, 0G, and I feel fine. Capsule is turning around.
Houston, we see a nominal MECO. Welcome to space.
We are super excited bringing you the coverage of SpaceX's 447th overall launch and the 19th Falcon 9 launch of this year. This is also the 434th Falcon 9's overall launch. Today's launch is the 13th one from the Space Coast, as SpaceX is on its way building their incredible launch cadence this year. Currently, we are waiting for a Falcon 9 liftoff at 1:53 p.m. Eastern Time, 18:53 hours UTC from Florida, for a southeasterly launch for SpaceX Starlink mission. The Starlink mission 12-18 will launch 21 Starlink satellites, including 13 with direct-to-cell to low Earth orbit. Before we dive in, on behalf of AstroYonder's team and our awesome moderators, we want to thank all of you joining us for today's launch. We are truly grateful to have you all here. A big thanks to our amazing YouTube community for being here today, supporting us as we provide detailed coverage of space launches, complete with extensive stats and thorough insights. Really appreciate you being here. We would love it if you guys hop into the chat and let us know where you are tuning in from. Feel free to drop any questions, suggestions, or share any thoughts as we move ahead. Now let's get into the mission details. As per the launch forecast published by the 45th Weather Squadron, today's weather for the launch looks quite promising, with only 5% probability of launch weather constraints violations, specifically the cumulus cloud rule. Otherwise, a fair weather is anticipated by 45th Weather Squadron. Fingers crossed and hope the launch proceeds on time without significant delays. But if for some reason launch does not happen today, we do have a backup opportunity tomorrow, that is on Wednesday, February 12th, with launch window opening at 11:36 a.m. Eastern Time. Now let's take a look at today's payload details for Starlink Group 12-18 mission. Built in Redmond, Washington, today's payload consists of 21 Starlink version 2 mini satellites, including 13 direct-to-cell satellites. SpaceX's first launch of 2024, that is last year, with the Starlink Group 7-9 mission, which deployed the first set of 6 Starlink satellites with direct-to-cell capability. And now here today we are registering for its beta testing. It's quite amazing how fast we are having the hands-on experience of this technology. Now just a reminder, Starlink direct-to-cell phone internet connection started its beta testing in collaboration with T-Mobile back from Jan 27 this year, which we know aims to eliminate dead zones worldwide. So those who haven't already, go rush and have the taste of this amazing tech. Now let's head back to the payload details again. Today's launch marks the 13th dedicated Starlink launch for this year. Each satellite is equipped with 5 advanced Ku-band phased array antennas, 3 dual-band parabolic antennas, which utilizes Ka and E band, and a 52.5 square meter dual solar array with a wingspan of 100 feet. The 2 solar arrays are also aeroneutral, which enable faster on-orbit maneuvers. Also, each satellite is equipped with a high-capacity battery to provide power to the payloads. Each Starlink satellite features 3 space laser transponders, that is optical inter-satellite links, and as the name suggests, is for intercommunication, which operates at up to 200 Gbps. Now this usage of ISLs, that is inter-satellite links, are now quite prevalent in the satellite development industry, and you can find this tech in almost every satellites being manufactured nowadays. Now the Starlink satellites make use of argon fueled Hall effect thrusters for in-orbit maneuvering, and today's payload will be deployed in an orbit with an altitude of approximately 291 kilometers and with an inclination of 43 degrees. But the functional orbit will be an altitude of approximately 560 kilometers and with an inclination of 43 degrees. Each version 2 mini satellite weighs approximately 1,763 pounds, that is 800 kilograms. Starlink satellite uses custom built star trackers to find their position, altitude, and orientation for delivering the optimal broadband throughput. Each Starlink satellite has 4 reaction wheels for precise attitude control. By attitude control, I mean orientation control, plus a hot spare setup for reliability, and their aluminum flywheel is designed to safely burn up at the end of its useful life. Additionally, the Starlink satellites are equipped with an onboard autonomous collision avoidance system for avoiding collisions with other spacecraft and space junk autonomously, which utilizes US Department of Defense debris tracking database. Now, just to provide you guys a little bit of context, according to a SpaceX report published earlier it was last year, where they mentioned that Starlink satellites performs 275 collision avoidance maneuvers each day, and in that course of past 6 months when this report got published, Starlink satellite performed 50,000 collision avoidance maneuvers. So I hope you can understand the importance of this autonomous collision avoidance system. Now, SpaceX, just a reminder, SpaceX is currently targeting a liftoff time of the Falcon 9 from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station at 1:53 p.m. Eastern Time, 18:53 hours UTC on Tuesday, February 11th, that is today. Now let's move on, and before moving on, would like to welcome Marcos Antonio for tuning in. Hello, Marcos. I hope you are doing fine and hope you will be enjoying the stream. Mostly, you are coming to our stream and supporting us. So, thanks for that. Also, would like to thank all of you joining us. And once again, would like to request you that we would love it if you guys can show up on the chat and let us know from where you guys are tuning in from. Feel free to drop any questions, any suggestions, or share your thoughts or opinion as we move ahead with the stream. We would love to hear from you guys. Now we discussed about the payload for today's mission. Now let's take a look at the flight record for the booster supporting today's Starlink 12-18 mission. Booster with tail number 1077 will be supporting today's mission. Today's booster with tail number 1077 has 817 previous flights in its record, including missions like SpaceX Crew 5, which marked the fifth operational NASA commercial Crew Program flight of a Crew Dragon spacecraft and the eighth overall crewed orbital flight. GPS-3 Space Vehicle 6 mission next was supported by this booster. Inmarsat I6F2 for Inmarsat, a British satellite telecommunication company offering telephone and data services globally. CRS-28, that is the Commercial Resupply Services mission to the International Space Station, which marked the eighth flight for SpaceX under NASA's CRS Phase 2 contract. Intelsat G7 for Intelsat SA, a multinational satellite service provider headquartered in Luxembourg. Cygnus NG20, a commercial resupply services mission, was the next one supported by today's booster, which is operated by Northrop Grumman, as we know, and that was the 20th flight of the Cygnus and an expendable American cargo spacecraft, which was deorbited on 13th of July last year. TD7 mission for Singletail Optus, an Australian telecommunication company but a wholly owned subsidiary of Singaporean telecommunication company named Singtel. And additionally, the boosters also supported 10 Starlink missions, now awaiting its 18th flight, approximately 27 minutes away from now. The booster's turnaround time as of today is 36 days, and the last mission supported by today's booster was the Starlink Group 6-71 mission from here at Slick 40 on 6th of January this year, marking the first Starlink mission of 2025. And now here we are today with the 13th flight for the Starlink mission. Today's mission will be the 18th consecutive launch of this booster from the East Coast, with all launches from Pad 39A and Space Launch Complex 40. And this will be the 13th flight of this booster from Space Launch Complex 40, with its 12th landing on Just Read the Instructions from a ship. I hope I could make you bit known to this booster supporting today's mission. Now let's move ahead and have a look at the bar graph. showing the number of Falcon 9 launches each year. Before this upcoming launch, SpaceX completed its 18th Falcon 9 launch of this year with the Starlink Group 11-10 mission launch from Vandenberg on February 10th, that is yesterday. And with today's launch of Starlink 12-18 mission, the bar graph depicts 19 Falcon 9 launches for 2025 as SpaceX gears for another year full of record breakers. Previously, we know SpaceX completed 132 launches of Falcon 9 last year, marking a year with the highest annual launches to date for SpaceX. That is 134 launches to date. And possibly this year we will be able to have 180 Falcon 9 launches as per Elon's previous tweet. Now, if this stream fuels your love for space, give us a like. It's like fine-tuning the trajectory of our space mission here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications so that you won't miss a single launch update. Together, we will build the ultimate constellation of space enthusiasts like you. Now, please allow us a couple of seconds to check whether the launch is on time or not and to stay updated. Well, yes, SpaceX is sticking with their current liftoff time. No issues there. Now let's move ahead and take a look at the trajectory for today's mission. Falcon 9 leaving the pad from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station with a batch of 21 Starlink satellites on board for a southeast trajectory heading into low Earth orbit, that is to the 12th shell of the second generation mega constellation of Starlink, indicated by that green line on your screen. The red line indicates where Falcon 9 first stage will land after stage separation, just a little later, leaving Florida Space Coast. This is going to be a drone ship landing, and today it's just read the instructions, one of the two here on the east coast, and this will be the 108th landing on just read the instructions drone ship to date. The planned booster recovery is 600 kilometers with estimated fading recovery approximately 670 kilometers downrange, and the stage 2 debris re-entry will be in the Indian Ocean on its second orbit. Now, with the upcoming Starlink Group 10-12 mission, SpaceX will be attempting to land the booster off the coast of Bahamas. And just to give you an idea, although I'm not prepared with that slide yet, but in the upcoming launch, I will be able to show you guys that how it will be in real to look like. But from this trajectory slide on your screen right now, you can say that it will be more towards the south side from that launch pad. So, and that trajectory is known as X-UMA. I hope I'm pronouncing it right, and if not, my apologies for that, which will allow SpaceX to fly southeast for 53 degrees Starlink missions rather than the northeast one. Now some of the stats for the drone ship fleet. Of the 3 drone ships, just read the instructions, and a shortfall of gravitas are stationed here in Florida, as we know. While of course I Still Love You is stationed in California, and we do expect the addition of a fourth drone ship as promised by SpaceX early this year, but as of now there is being no update from their end. Now let's discuss a little bit about the fairing recovery. SpaceX will utilize a recovery vessel to retrieve the fairing halves from the Atlantic waters. The two halves of the payload fairing will be recovered slightly farther, approximately 70 kilometers downrange from where the first stage lands on the Just Read the Instructions drone ship, after they will smoothly splash down with the guidance of parachutes. Now on your screen you can see how a fairing recovery looks like. The recovery vessel on your screen performing the recovery operations is Doug, but today's supporting recovery vessel is Bob, one of the three here at the East Coast. Other recovery vessels, Doug and Go Cosmos, here at the East Coast, are now awaiting their next assignment. And some of the slides for you to better understand that how the fairing recovery operation looks like in a close-up view. Now we have a request again for you folks. Consider giving this stream a like as your way of boosting us past max Q. It helps us connect with more space enthusiasts like you, and subscribe to us so that you will never miss an update like a perfectly timed launch window. We would be super grateful for your support. Now coming to some stats related to today's mission. We are now approximately 12 minutes away from the webcast to begin. Not 12, it's 13 minutes away from the webcast to begin. So today's launch marks 447th SpaceX overall launch and the 13th dedicated Starlink launch of this year. This is going to be the 434th Falcon 9 launch to date. 18th flight of this particular Falcon 9 booster supporting today's mission, with tail number 1077 being in action after 36 days. Today's mission marks 19th Falcon 9 launch and SpaceX's 20th overall launch of 2025. Please excuse me for my voice getting choked. Now this will be the 379th Falcon 9 Falcon booster reflight to date. That is the launch of a booster that has flown at least once before. This count is for the whole of Falcon family, and for the Falcon 9 booster reflights, I'm just going to tell that in a while. 232nd orbital launch for SpaceX, launching from Space Launch Complex 40, and the 287th overall launch from SLC 40 with this mission. With the success of this mission, SpaceX will have a mind-boggling 7,929 Starlink satellites, including 479 dedicated direct-to-cell satellites launched to date. Prior to today's launch, overall 7,908 Starlink satellites have been launched to date, including 466 dedicated direct-to-cell satellites. So I mentioned this just to have you guys to have that context, that the difference between the previous one and with this mission, how much the count will be. And as we know, just last year alone is staggering 1,982 Starlink satellites were launched despite having mishaps and delays due to weather conditions, which is a huge number and an incredible achievement. Hopefully, SpaceX can surpass 2,000 launches for Starlink this year, provided no mishaps occur and weather issues come in between. Now, moving on to some reusability statistics. This launch marks 363rd Falcon 9 booster reflight to date. This will be the 108th landing on Just Read the Instructions drone ship, 18th landing of the first stage booster with tail number 1077. With this mission's first stage landing, SpaceX will be having their 326th overall drone ship landing, marking 389th Falcon 9 landing to date and 408th SpaceX overall landing to date. Speaking of drone ship landing, here are some of the stats prior to today's launch. So please don't get confused with the numbers here. This stats for the drone ship is not including the number for the upcoming Starlink launch. It's prior to this launch, which means that up to 11-10 mission. Meanwhile, you guys are having a look at the stats for the drone ships. Consider providing a like to this stream. A little bit of your support means a world to us, which inspires us to work more hard to provide live coverages filled with stats and thorough insights. We would be super grateful for your support. Now, let's move on and have a look into some key stats for SpaceX launches this year, including today's mission. With today's mission, SpaceX will have the 20th launch of this year. And out of those, 13 are Starlink missions, including this one, that is the Starlink 12-18 mission. And six were non-Starlink missions for commercial and government organizations. 19 reuse booster with this mission. Now, if we look into the geographical distribution, we get they will be having 13 launches from East Coast, with previous 5 from Launch Complex 39A, that is Kennedy Space Center, and 8 launches with today's mission, that is from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. On the West Coast, they have 6 launches from Space Launch Complex 4 East at Vandenberg Space Force Base. As of now, only 1 launch from Gulf Coast at Starbase in Texas, with the 7th integrated flight test and 1 super heavy booster catch during that flight test. Now, SpaceX has applied for an upcoming FCC communication license for the test flight, with a start date no earlier than February 24th of this year, which suggests that the launch could occur early as late February or early March, pending the completion of the Flight 7 mishap investigation by the FAA. And for the land landings, they will be nailing it for the 18th time this year, with most of the landings being on drone ship. 16 drone ship landings to be precise. 5 on Of Course I Still Love You, 5 on Just Read the Instructions, including one from today, and 6 on A Shortfall of Gravitas. For ground landings, Landing Zone 1 and Landing Zone 4 both saw one landing each. Now, prior to today's launch, the success rate for ground landings is 98.80%, with 82 successful landings. For drone ship landings, it is 96.73%, and the overall landing success rate for SpaceX as of now, prior to this launch, is 97.14%. Today's mission is the 83rd launch since last mission failure, that is the Starlink 9-3 mission. The longest stretch of successful mission in a row prior to the last mission failure, that is the Starlink 9-3 mission, was 334 back-to-back successful missions, that is from Iridium 1 to Turksat 6A mission. Most launches in a calendar quarter to date is 42 launches, including 2 Starship launches in the fourth quarter of last year, and the most launches in a calendar month is 17 launches in November, which includes 1 Starship launch, again last year only, that is in 2024. We are just 3 minutes away from the webcast to begin, so let's just quickly wrap up the stats for this mission. Now, again, this page of stats are prior to today's launch, and what we have is 134 launches in a calendar year, which is the highest annual launches to date for SpaceX. But if we count in the Starship launches, then it is 138. "82 successful launches since last mission failure with Starlink 9-3 mission, 66 successful landings since last landing failure with Starlink 8-6 mission, 300 missions with at least 1 reused fairings, and approximately 568 numbers of fairing halves were reused." Moving on to this year's orbital launches, including today's one. With this 31st orbital launch of the year, United States is leading with 21 launches, followed by China with 7 launches, and 1 launch each by Russia, Japan, and India, marking their debut for orbital launches this year. So now we have this pie chart showing 2025 orbital launches by rocket variations, including today's launch. Falcon 9 is scheduled for its 19th launch with this upcoming Starlink 12-18 mission. Previously, there was 1 launch each for Electron, New Glenn, and Soyuz 2.1V rockets. China's Long March 3B E variant had 2 launches, while Long March 2D, 6A, 8A, J Long, and Series 1 rockets each had one launch so far. The slice of the pie labeled as Others comprises India's GSLV Mark II for ISRO and Japan's H322S rockets, each having one launch. Now we are done with the stats for today's mission launch, but would like to mention that with the launch of New Glenn and Long March, with the launch of New Glenn and Long March 8A debut, and I can assure you this year that we will be having more launches with many more new rockets coming up for us. Let me just check whether the webcast is started or not. Meanwhile, we have one of our moderator joining us after a long time, Vlad, one of the most humble guy and a kind-hearted person. Well, Vlad, I'm just coming to you. Just give me a second. Let me set up the stream for everyone. Well, I patched in the audio as well. They quickly started it today. Well, adding value to your viewing experience here at AstroYonder is our top priority. If you feel we somewhat achieved that, please consider liking this video. It really helps YouTube's algorithm to bring in more space fans and helps others to find out this stream. Now we did got the call out that the tanks are pressurizing for strong back retract, and the strong back retract has started. Now hopefully we will be able to see those clamp arms under the stage 2 to coming open. Upon opening up of those clamp arms underneath the payload fairing, the transporter erector will recline about 1.5 degrees from the vehicle, as this is a cape flight. Now, while we are watching this spectacular live view of Falcon 9, a couple of important steps were completed. The spacecraft team switched to internal power a few minutes ago, and the fueling of the Falcon 9 first stage is finished, meaning all the RP-1 prop is right now on board. We are still loading the liquid oxygen on both the first and second stages, and soon we will be getting the callouts for their completion. Well, Vlad, thanks for tuning in, and I hope you are doing well. And there we go, we got the call out. The liquid oxygen loading of the first stage is now complete. We are now waiting for the second stage that will finish up at around just T-2 minutes mark. Right now we are at T-2 minutes and 17 seconds. The range continues to be green, and the weather, of course, as we can see, you can see there it's spectacular. Sunny day there, no issues from the weather. Again, if for some reason we do not launch today, we do have a backup opportunity tomorrow, that is on Wednesday, February 12th. And we did got the call out that the stage 2 launch load is complete. So all the propellants are now on board the Falcon 9 with 1 million pounds of propellant. We are now beginning to vent down the pressure that was in the tubing on the strong back. That's why we can see those clouds coming out there.
Ground gas closeouts.
Call out for ground gas closeout. That's where we bleed the extra pressure off that and that cold gas when it reacts with the moist humid air, which gives this nice white cloud, an indicator of launch coming up. The next event, T-1 minute, we should hear the call out that the Falcon 9 flight computers are in startup and controlling the rocket for the remainder of the countdown.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
Right on time, Falcon 9 flight computers on the stage 1 and stage 2 are running the rocket to the last minute of count. Now let's listen to the go call out.
Launch director, go for launch.
There we go, SpaceX launch director giving go for the launch. We are coming up on T-minus 33 seconds. All systems continues to remain go for launch of Falcon 9 and Starlink. Now let's sit back and enjoy this spectacular launch of Falcon 9 in a sunny day. And with that, I'm pretty sure we will be getting some good views from stage 1 and stage 2.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. And liftoff. Go Falcon, go Starlink.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
T plus 15 seconds into the flight, we have a successful liftoff. Falcon 9 has cleared the tower, and right now we are into the throttle bucket, throttling down the 9 Merlin engines, preparing for the period of maximum dynamic stress coming up. Expecting some good callouts for the power and telemetry.
Power and telemetry nominal.
And there we go. Good callouts for the vehicle, power and telemetry. All are nominal. We did got the call out for vehicle being supersonic. Right now we have exceeded Mach 1 on the Falcon 9, which means that Falcon 9 is faster than the speed of sound. Vehicle reaching max Q. With the max Q call out, we are through the period of maximum stress on the vehicle. And again, right now we throttle the Merlin engines back up to full power. Now we are expecting a call out for MVAC engine chill.
Stage 2 engine chill.
There we go, right on time. So we have started to chill down the MVAC engine on the second stage prior to its ignition, just after stage separation. Coming up 3 events in rapid succession: the shutdown of main engine on first stage, that is main engine cutoff, MECO, followed by stage separation and ignition of the second stage, MVAC engine for the first time, also known as SES-1, which will boost the payload into low Earth orbit. So let's sit back and hear to those callouts. Well, we are getting really some good views out there from the first stage.
Main engine cutoff. Stage separation confirmed. Stage 2 ignition.
And there we go. We got the callouts for all the 3 back-to-back milestones. Now, I hope we will be able to see that, yes, we got the view. The stage nitrogen thrusters is now beginning to reorient the first stage, and the flight computers has commanded the 4 hypersonic titanium grid fins to slowly begin deploying now that the stage separation is successful. Coming up is the fairing separation.
Fairing separation confirmed.
We got the call out that the fairing has successfully separated. You are looking right now a view of the first stage, which continues under the force of gravity as it steers with the help of great fins. It will continue to rise towards the apogee before descending back towards the landing on drone ship. Just read the instructions for today. Station in the Atlantic Ocean. Second stage, meanwhile, in its 6-minute burn, is on its way into the parking orbit with the 21 Starlink satellites payload on board, providing us some spectacular views. Well, Vlad, glad to know that you are doing well. Well, meanwhile, one of our another moderator, Poppy has joined us. Thanks for tuning in, Poppy. Again, now to after this, I hope next one is the 12-8, so we have a little bit of time in between and I can rest a little bit. Today again, I couldn't sleep for these 2 back-to-back launches. Well, this view from the first stage, it reminds me of a clip of which we got from the ISS. Like similar kind of view, it was there. I guess it was passing from the same uh, location. Maybe for that, it seems like that to me. Currently, we are preparing for the first stage to make its return to the landing site for on the drone ship. For today, as I mentioned before, it's just read the instructions here in the Atlantic Ocean. Up until now, the launch has been excellent and smooth. The second stage is operating at maximum capacity, and we are getting some cool views from space from both the stages. The first stage has completed its task and is way in its way back, and during this part of the flight, stage 1 solely relies on its great fins for steering as it returns to Earth.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
Stage 1 FTS has saved.
And there's confirmation we have just lit 3 of the Merlin 1D engines on the first stage. Now we are rapidly slowing down the vehicle, as you can see on the bottom left side of your screen from the telemetry as it enters the Earth's atmosphere, and this burn should last just around 28 seconds.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
And there we go, that's confirmation of the shutdown of the entry burn on the first stage.
Stage 2 FTS has saved.
Stage 2 FTS being saved means the orbital insertion burn is complete for the second stage, where we are getting some crystal clear views from the second stage. Meanwhile, the first stage view got messy. Pop replica, you can see that, and right now it faded away. No, it came back. Well, fine. But nowadays, Pop replica, I think upon me complaining the camera views are getting messy, the camera views are staying good. And you just heard the call out, stage 1 being transonic, which means the stage 1 is now traveling slower than the speed of sound as it heads towards the landing. Speaking of landing, we are less than 60 seconds away from that. Well, Pop Replica, today Vlad joined us. See what's the lucky day. And there we go. Call out for stage 1 landing burn. Great views of the landing burn with the center E9 engine now lit. We are slowing down the vehicle furthermore very rapidly. Should be
Stage 1 landing leg deployed.
stage 1 landing legs deployed.
Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And there we have it. We have successfully made the 389th landing of an orbital class Falcon 9 rocket. Coming up next, we will have the second stage engine cutoff, that is SECO-1, and following that event, the second stage will enter into about 45 minutes of coast phase as the vehicle ascends to its target orbit.
Stage 2 shutdown.
And there we go, we got the call out for MVAC shutdown, also known as SECO-1. And these callouts we were waiting for, second stage engine cutoff, SECO-1, but we didn't hear the nominal orbital insertion callout, but rest assured it occurred as expected. Now today's launch marks SpaceX's 447th successful mission, with the landing marking their 408th success. Well, with that, we will wrap up our coverage for now. Be sure to check out our social media handle on X for the latest happening in space industry and updates on upcoming launches. The link is, I guess, provided on the chat section. And just before going, let me refer to Pop Replica. Well, yes, that looks more good, but nowadays I don't know why when they are landing, those water splashes are not getting on the camera. I think the water deluge, they made it a little low in like volume, I guess so. But previously in between, they were like blistering on the camera as soon as the landing was happening, and it was giving a glittering effect. But anyways, it's nice, and once again would thank Vlad for tuning in after so long, and hopefully I can have some time to talk to you on X. And so that's a wrap for now. Finally, and most importantly, want to thank you for wherever you are watching our live coverage. Can't do this broadcast without you, and so we are grateful for your continued support of what we do here at AstroYonder. We hope you enjoyed the stream. Appreciate everyone joining us for today's launch. Wishing you a nice week ahead. Once again, thanks for watching. This is AstroYonder Live and me, Dipta, signing off for now, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.